when you had me on the show, Ben, you had me laughing when you did like 10 takes of Shoecast.
I know, I think we kept it.
Shoecast.
We kept it for the tease. I've gotten worse since then.
I mean,
I haven't been happy with any of them this season.
You got
I need
it
to
first
just like
time.
sit around and tape a couple.
I was laughing before we started the show.
You need a Shoecast
Listen,
button.
Yeah,
I do.
I get this.
I need it to like.
Yes.
Yeah,
about
do a bunch
that?
of effects.
Still going.
doesn't-
I need to
it
just
doesn't
say it
stop.
once and have the computer figure out how to do it different, because somehow I thought that it was a good idea to do it a little different every time, and now we're at like 70 episodes or something.
You can only
So it was pretty
Shoecast so many times. Full grain Shoecast. How was that? You want to do a Shoecast?
Do I want
harder.
to? I think you're doing great.
Shoecast. Shoecast. Shoecast?
Deeper.
Shoecast.
That's the one.
Really go for it.
We'll keep that one. I've been a fan of you guys and your show for has it been 2 years now that you've been doing it?
Probably.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Made a really big impact, we can tell.
Yeah. Well, I
There
remember
might be 3.
I think the first time I saw word of it was on Reddit under the Goodyear Welt subreddit. I was like, what is this thing? Okay, cool. And the thing I liked most about it was that it brought me back into the world of being at the tannery. And I'd quit working with Nick, which was bittersweet. I enjoyed my time there, but leaving the tannery sort of took me out of that world of, footwear, which I was familiar with on a daily basis, and I sort of lost touch. So listening to your podcast, I've been sort of back connected with everything that's going on, and for me, it's just been great. So being able to take over the show is incredible. So thanks for being on the show today, guys. We got Ticho and Ben from Stitchdown Shoecast, and I'm Phil Callis here with Nick Horween, and we're doing the Full Grain podcast on our channel. When we've been talking with people that make stuff, different industries. It has been pretty leather heavy recently, but we've been trying to move away from it slightly. We want to start to connect the dots between leather and other people making things like denim and watches and headphones that you're wearing right now.
Good stuff.
Yeah, all the good stuff. But guys, this is our turn to spin it around back on you. I wanted to talk about how you started your podcast, and even going back farther, how you got into the world of quality footwear, as you guys put it.
Well, thank you for taking over our podcast. It was high time that somebody did it. And it seems like there's a good steady hand at the wheel now, finally.
Yes.
So we're absolutely indebted to you.
I'm actually tweaking on coffee right now, so touche there.
Dude, this green tea's going right to the dome. Fantastic question. You should host a podcast. To back it all the way up, I think Ticho should go first, because he was frankly into this stuff before me. I was still, kicking around. And if you can see on my video here, because I believe we're also on YouTube all of a sudden, which is pretty exciting and, uncharted territory for us.
You look beautiful. You look really good.
I do. When Ticho started getting into this, despite being about 65 years younger than me, I was still wearing like the Air Force One Rasheed Wallace player editions up in the corner in my video feed.
Yeah, man, I've been, like many people, and like you, Ben, I got into shoes as like a sneaker guy, playing basketball as a teenager, getting into basketball shoes. Then I went to college, I went to law school, and was like, yeah, you can't really, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to own 100 pairs of sneakers. If you work in a courtroom, that's a little frowned upon. I couldn't really swing that. And so I got took the same love of those shoes and just started looking at dress shoes, and basically just similar to you, found our Goodyear well. I think I was one of the first 50 or 100 subscribers there. Was just got super into it, started posting reviews, posting in those daily threads, meeting people. I've probably at this point met a couple hundred people through Reddit, in person, which is terrifying. When I tell people that,
No, they're sweet
in like
people.
they're all the people that I've met have all, with like three exceptions, been the nicest people I've ever met. Some of the best, some of my best friends, now as a, you know, man in my 30s, are people I met through Reddit or Instagram or, you know, through Stitchdown Premium. So when I tell people that, they're like, how have you not been murdered? You know, I've done, you know, meetups where I just like walk to a dude's house in DC in the middle of a snowstorm and like just played Mario Kart while like drinking Fireball, and people are like, how did you not get murdered doing that? But it's a shared love of shoes that that has kept us together and kept us from murdering each other. So that's been pretty powerful.
But you gotta be careful, because if it's somebody who's the same size, I feel like those murder chances go way up.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
Well,
Yeah,
how did you
that's
get
a
over
fair
to the our Goodyear welt? What was that? You know, you were dressing up as playing the part of a lawyer. You were just seeking out fancier shoes.
Yeah, I was into I was into dressier shoes. I'd kind of found it through just looking around on the internet, and you know, discovered Alden's. That was kind of one of the first ones I really was like, oh my god, like these are made in the United States. My mom's from Massachusetts, so I have like kind of a connection with Massachusetts. Was like, that's
Who's got the
sorry.
phone going? Could we?
Yeah, shit, that's me. Sorry.
Yeah.
My wife is
Fired.
texting me about.
You're out of the show.
My wife is texting me about Hot Wheels.
Do you want to take this?
Be sure to get back to that.
You better take that one.
True story. Hot Wheels, very important topic over here. With like, we have two sons. We're not playing with the Hot Wheels, I swear. Although I do play with them, they're pretty fun. But yeah, I was like into like Alden stuff. I was on our like male fashion advice and like that kind of stuff, trying to figure out, you know, like what Oxford cloth button downs I should buy from Uniqlo or like whatever.
Wait, so not even the frugal one, like the full bore one.
No, I've never been frugal, dude. Yeah, I've always gone full bore on it. And I saw this dude post a message that he was like, "Hey, I started this subreddit about nice shoes. If that's your vibe, like, come check this out." And
Who was it that started that? Do you know them?
I do know him. His name is Sklark23. He's a lovely man from the Minnesota area.
He's a treasure. He started a good community there.
Yeah, he should be proud of that. I've known him for basically since then. I've proxied Vibergs for him, talked to him on the phone. He's got like the thickest Minnesota accent I've ever heard. It was delightful. I would love to go to Minnesota. They have those cheeseburgers that have like cheese on the inside of them. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, they're like loose, juicy Lucy's.
Juicy Lucy's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of hot dogs.
This I imagine this podcast is going to devolve into a lot of hot dog talk.
So on the Full Grain podcast, we've actually talked or spoke about hot dogs in I think every episode now, either on or off the air.
I think it's on twice.
It seems to come up.
I mean, I love hot dogs. I worked at a hot dog. I assistant managed a hot dog restaurant for 3 years when I was in college. I have
Back
big
when
opinions.
you were Steve from Stranger Things.
Ooh.
It's not that far off.
Yeah.
Steve's a handsome guy, man.
Once the hair gets a little bigger, I think I can get there. But I have big opinions on the Chicago style hot dog, which I've voiced on this podcast before, and they're not good. I'm not a fan. So
All right.
It's okay.
we'll
Not
fight about
everybody
that
likes
later, I
a
guess.
salad on top of their hot dog.
There's too much stuff on it. Like, why am I putting? I mean, I like a loaded up chili dog or something, but like, what is all this stuff? Really, like a whole tomato? Like, it's like half a tomato on there. It's insane. It's an insane amount of stuff on a hot dog.
So your voyage from lawyer to Reddit lurker, and now you're like fully in, huh?
I'm way too far in.
Yeah.
I've fully from clicking on that one link that Sklark posted all those years ago. That was probably like 10 years ago, something like that. I've fully gone down the rabbit hole. I stopped working as a lawyer. I started working at a shoe store. Worked at a different shoe store, and now I just kind of sit in my basement and cook up shoe designs and hope I can convince people to buy them or make them or whatever. And along the way, I met Ben. I met Ben at a Vibrant Staple sale briefly, and then we decided to go to a shoe factory together. And so he came, slept at my house, hung out at like the dive bar in my town, which sadly was torn down recently, Ben.
Ooh, you told me.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Crushing.
And we decided, well, let's just drive out to the Mark Albert boot factory out near Pittsburgh, which is like 5 hours from here. It's pretty far away. And I'm like, just gonna be stuck in a car with this dude for like 10 hours tomorrow. I don't really know him. I know he's got some kind of website. I don't really know what his deal is. I met him briefly. He had a nice beard. And the whole drive, we never stopped talking. I mean, we just never once stopped talking about shoes or leather or anything. And we just kind of just vibed. And when the pandemic hit, we were like, what are we doing? You know, the store I was managing had to close up. I'm just sitting in my basement doing nothing. And we kind of just said, let's try it out. We did, geez, how many ones did we try before we even put it out, man? Like 5 or 6? Like
It was a bunch. So to back this up, just a touch, I explained to my wife what we were going to do. It's like, yeah, I'm going to drive out, Jersey, need the car, like kind of late at night. And I'm meeting this guy that I met one time, like on the street in New York, and his wife and kids are like out of town apparently. And then we're going to drive to the shoe factory. And she was quite rightly, I think, like, all right, so you're going to get fucking murdered and, like, won't be able to help this family at all. And I don't really agree with this decision.
You're driving yourself
it's always
to
lingering.
the remote location.
Exactly. It's like, it's always lingering in the back of everybody's mind. All these shoe murders. And as far as we know, like, that would be a great podcast episode to like discourage people away from the hobby, but we haven't done it because it hasn't happened, and we would have to cover that kind of news if there were like shoe friend murders happening. So we did that, talked the whole time and learned about the Jersey slide and garbage and all sorts of kind of wonderful Ticho life lessons, Ticho tips, if you will. And then, for some reason I was living at my in-laws at this point in time, up in Massachusetts, about a half hour outside of Boston, and like watching my daughter all day long. I only had one kid at that point, trying to, continue to propel this website, etc., forward, in the midst of, like very early pandemic stuff. That's why we had like kind of run away to there. And so, of course, we're like, yeah, we should take up a bunch of time and start a podcast, because that seems like a prudent thing to do, given all this free time we have on our hands. And I remember my wife, I sent you guys this book. This is why they're so good, is this book, Make Noise by Eric Nussum, that was recommended to me, and my wife had also, she was kind of involved in this book, and so she had also read it. And I was like, yep, so I'm going to like get a mic for me and a mic for Ticho. And she's like, this thing was very much not a business at this point. She's like, it says right here on the first page of this book that 99.9% of podcasts never make a dime. And I was like, well, I already ordered them. And yeah, I was like set up in like a barn, like a literal barn. Somewhat, finished, like an office in a barn, but still in a barn. And there are like, things happening that happen outside of barns, making all this noise. And we probably piloted it for like 2 months.
Really?
Yeah, I remember being like, buckle up.
Was it really
teach?
Really rough, the first couple?
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, at first we were just like, we didn't have the audio set up. We didn't know what we were going one step at a time. I was like, all right, hopefully, content can be something that we can be decent at. We'll worry about the audio later. So we were just calling each other on the phone and like trying stuff out. And yeah, it was some of the bones were there. Like what are your fingers called? Like the whatever the smallest bone in your body, that was present in some of the early pilots.
Your phalanges?
Yeah, your phalanges.
Is that right?
Sounds right.
I thought there was like a metatarsal.
I think that's your foot.
No,
Oh yeah.
Little bones.
it's a good tangent.
Metacarpal.
Yeah, sure.
What's a phalange?
You could say any word right now, and I go, "Yep,
We're gonna edit
that
this out.
sounds like the smallest bone."
I'm
It
gonna
was
say
probably the phalange looking back.
I'm gonna say that the smallest bone is in your ear. You got bones in your ear.
Oh, the
And I
cochlea.
think
Ooh,
that's not a bone. That's not a bone. But yeah, I don't remember what they're called.
Might be. It's that Tim Panum's not a bone, I'll tell you that much. And I don't know. I remember we had like a 20-minute segment where we were just like calling out people that we liked. We were like, yo, it was Ted who is one half of like the Patina Project app. Like he created it. Remember we were like, oh yeah, everybody got to check out TL Mater. Like he just got some new dope boots. It's like follow it on Instagram. We're like, wait a minute, people are like driving their cars listening to this. We're gonna tell them to like whip out their phones to follow Ted. Shout out Ted, you're the greatest. But you also made us realize that segment maybe wasn't exactly what we needed. And then we just kind of started going. We didn't even really have the idea that we knew that we could have guests, but we were kind of fearful of it. And then I think was Jake the first guest?
the
On
boot
the
bait.
boot bait episode?
I love the
Yeah,
boot bait.
it might have been.
And yeah, that was pretty early into it. And we're like, all right, let's get highly conceptual and kind of strange with this whole thing. And this will tell us if we should just stop or not. And people were actually quite confused by that episode.
Really? I thought it was really well. I
Some
listened
were,
back to
some
it
were.
last week. And it's like, this is actually pretty good. It was very entertaining and also informative.
To this day, it still may be my favorite episode.
It's great. You did a really good moderation job.
It was fun to play the straight man, Mr. Style, please. Yeah, I mean, as far as the podcast went, it kind of went from there. Like we were lucky to know some people who wanted to like take some just treacherous plunge as early guests, and did a great job. And behind the scenes, there's like all this technology stuff, which luckily evolved since then. In terms of just being in different places. Ticho and I have actually never taped an episode in the same place as each other. And I'm pretty sure only one, the one with Tull Price from Fight, because he was in New York and wanted to do it in person, has been taped, in person.
Mm-hmm. It's a different experience, to be honest. So like us right now with you on the screen, there's like this micro latency that's almost imperceptible, but it makes me more conscious of being interruptive. Like when we're in person, like, and it's just Nick and myself across the table, I'll interrupt the crap out of him and it feels like not rude. But there's something about a camera and a remote recording thing that feels different. So I'd encourage you to try it in person if you can. It's fun. Plus I get to see my buddy every week.
We do work like 3/4 of a mile away from each other, which helps.
But Ben, I want to back you up. We were talking about the origin of Ticho, the Ticho origins. How did you get into the shoe world, Ben?
Well, I've told this story before on this, and I'll never get really too sick of telling it because I think everybody should go out and break their foot who's wearing sneakers. Anybody who's already wearing good shoes or boots can keep their feet intact, all their metatarsals. Yeah, I woke up one morning and I couldn't walk, and I'd been wearing all these sneakers, and I've been playing. I've kind of tracked it back to this. I was playing basketball a couple times a week in Air Force Ones, actually from like 1985 or something, that I had gotten on eBay, because I thought that would be like a cool thing to do, because I'm not very good. So I figured I could at least have cool shoes and, try and play up to them a little bit. And so I woke up one morning, couldn't walk. And the doctor's like, it's your shoes. I think I came in a pair of Vans. And he's like, it's these terrible shoes. They're flat. They offer no support. You're walking all around New York City. This is bad. And then I had to walk around New York City for 4 months in one of those gigantic, clumsy walking boots, wearing down one shoe abnormally while doing that in this horrifically snowy winter. And he was like, get yourself some good shoes or boots. So I listened to him, probably, for the first time in my adult, or I suppose child life, heeding a doctor's words. And where did I go to figure that out? Our Goodyear Welt on Reddit.
Really?
And, I knew Red Wings existed. And kind of that was it, I did have a pair of Alan Edmonds strand dress shoes that I would wear to weddings and things like that, which were working out pretty good. And I took care of them, but I didn't really know what I was doing necessarily. And they almost certainly weren't the right size and all that. So I plunge in and I'm like, all right, I gotta make this change. I want to get something cool. Didn't end up getting the Red Wings. Ended up getting a pair of Thorogoods instead, which I still have to this day because they were cheaper, pretty much. I was like, how can I? These prices are crazy. And then once you find out, or at least for me, found out about Alden, I was like, all right, I'm just fucked here. In terms of my financials, these boots are $600 and I need them, but I'm going to bide my time and work my way up there. And just tried to learn more and more about what was going on. At that point, I've been in media jobs my whole career and was working one and then switched for a year to another, which kind of demanded nicer boots. So I allowed myself to get my second pair of Aldens. And, I think at that point, after I left that job and started thinking about just doing something else, literally made a list of things that I liked and said, can I, make some sort of media something or other around these, and take a guess what was at the top of the list.
Yeah.
It was boots. It was boots. And at that point, I think I had 3 pairs of Aldens, a couple pairs of Red Wings, and knew I needed to kind of learn more immediately, and in the meantime figure out how to get by on the knowledge that I had. And that was the goal, just learn a ton every day, and just started reaching out to people, and not everybody picked up the email, which is what people do with emails. They pick them up.
Knowing what you know now, would you have still gone down that road in that direction? Thorogood, Red Wing, Alden. Would you still do that given hindsight?
In terms of the progression?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have been far off, honestly. I think there's a few more options in the right price slot now. And they existed at the time. One of the first people who kind of picked up was Wyatt from Grant Stone. And I remember I was talking to him the other day, kind of remembering this, and I was like, oh yeah, man, I remember I got on the phone with you, and I'm like, here I am doing this boot journalism, and you make your shoes in China. We're really going to figure this guy out. Because people on Reddit hadn't really realized that Grant Stone was quite good at that point, and a lot of people were kind of opposed to it, and there were Alden comparisons that, weren't terribly positive out there. And I think there were some people who were beginning to say, actually, damn, these things are really good. This price is incredible, made in China, but the right way. But that hadn't tipped over, and that was where all the information was, right? And so I got on the phone with him and being like, I'm going to just grill this dude. We're going to get the real story. Mm-hmm. And I left being like, oh my God.
Dude's legit, right?
This guy's so legit. The story is incredible. It all makes sense now. Why they're making them over there, how he ended up over there, his Alden connection, deep, deep, deep into the past between his dad and his grandpa, and, the Grant Stone, the famed Alden salesman that the brand is named after. And I left and I was like, oh man, okay. But yeah, at that point in the beginning, I knew about Grain Stone, but I wasn't sold on it, frankly, until I had that conversation. And I'm really glad that it happened. But yeah, and like the Thorogoods, I remember sitting there being like, well, people are like, Thorogoods are a work boot. Like, you can't wear them, you know, in certain situations. And at that time, I looked at them and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they look like a pretty nice boot to me. Like, what's going on here? And it's pretty interesting to think about the more time that you spend with anything, but especially, you know, like good footwear, you realize what it actually is, both in general and also to you. But you just need to put in the time. You need to like understand the landscape. You need to understand what different kinds of patterns and lasts render as on a shoe. And now I'm looking at them like, yeah, these things are work boots. Of course, they're like 8 years old and completely trashed and have been through a lot. But at the beginning, I was like, these are the nicest boots I've ever owned. This is the nicest pair of footwear I've ever owned. And they felt that way even kind of compared to the Allen Edmonds, although I wasn't necessarily putting them right up against each other. Which, I mean, bully on Thorogood for making me feel that way. But there is a difference between a Thorogood or a Red Wing mock toe and like an entire classification of boots that I couldn't necessarily figure out at that point. So to your question, Nick, yeah, I think it was a pretty good place to start. One, like, they're incredibly comfortable. Two, I wore them, you know, probably more than I should have, but I was, you know, living a fairly casual life at that point. Still am. You know, it settled you into a place of being like, I know that there is more out there, and boy, wouldn't it be cool to have that. But if I don't really understand it, I feel like I'm just going to waste some money, you know, and like a whole bunch of it at some of those next levels. So I became, you know, committed to that and had like the combination of financial restraint and curiosity, I think probably would have always led me on the exact same path. That's not a knock on anybody who dives in hard, quick. You know, I think if you don't know your size, that can really backfire. But if you do, and you manage to figure that out, you know, however you do that, DMing Ticho or hanging out in the Discord or, you know, going to a shop locally that really knows their stuff and can help you understand like what a last is, you know, just go for it if you got the funds. But I don't know, there's something nice about kind of taking it slow, especially at the beginning, because you're just making better choices at that point, I think.
I agree. You took your skill set. Were you a writer? My assumption is that you were a writer, because I really like your writing. Is that the case?
I know it's definitely better than my talking, because
I like your speaking as well. Yeah,
you get the opportunity to change it if you wish. Yeah, I mean, I came up as a writer and then was an editor and then was kind of, you know, like an overseer of like all those people for a while. But I never stopped writing. A lot of it was not for like my day job at a certain point. But there was always like some kooky, you know, blog project or Tumblr or whatever that I was like heavily invested in. And then, you know, once you have children, you don't get to do that as much, like blog about college basketball at like 2 a.m. after being out on the town. And yeah, so I don't know, that kind of, you know, kept it all fresh, I guess. And then once you do have children, you just have to like quit your job and start writing about boots like all day long, I guess, is kind of how it ended up working.
I mean, it worked, right?
We're talking to you guys.
You still paying your mortgage and getting by? Yeah, it's working.
Yeah. You know, the rate was right, luckily. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's all from, I mean, just the support of like listeners and community members. And again, like you look at the people that, or the brands that we have like partnerships with, all of whom have to be doing something legitimately remarkable. Like there's really no negotiation on that front, because it makes it very easy to, one, like just cook up cool things and ways to do things together, and two, to keep the audience's trust, because the whole thing is we're only going to tell you about really good stuff, which can mean excellent for a certain price point or the best thing in the world, but one or both of those things have to be true. And so there, from our perspective, there's a lot of comfort in that we really only want to work with those kind of brands or shops or whatever. But those people from the early days, like the people who took the calls, it was Jason from Division Road, Neil from Standard and Strange, Wyatt. Like, there's a reason that we keep collaborating with these people, because they kind of got it right off the bat. There's one person who remained unnamed. Like, after I had Brett Viberg on the podcast, I shot him an email for the first time. I was like, hey, would love to chat. If you ever want to come on the podcast, let's do that. I just want to know more about your product and your business and all that. And, the response was terse, and that was our last conversation. There haven't been a lot of those, but not everybody else was rushing to be like, who is this fucking guy? Like, why is he calling me?
Well, I want to interrupt you here because I think you've built an incredible community in the form of the Discord channel. And you reminded me when you were speaking about Grantstone and Wyatt. So in the beginning, just before the pandemic sort of was in full swing, full nastiness, I had probably messaged Wyatt around the same time as you. And he came down to Chicago and we filmed a conversation between him and myself that is now my most popular video on the Ashland YouTube channel. And I remember doing my recon for the episode with him and finding that the only criticism that I could come across was that it's made in China. So I pressed him on that, and he had some pretty good explanations. I don't necessarily love that they're made in China, but the result is certainly good. You could tell me it was made in the United States, and it almost doesn't, like, it matters, but it also sort of doesn't. Like, I want to support my country and I want to support my community. That's, Nick and I work across the street from each other, basically. I like that notion. But, when the only thing you can say bad about it is, well, it's not made here, like, that's kind of weird. So even to this day, I still get comments on that video. Like I said, it's my most popular video I've ever put up on YouTube. And I still get comments of people saying, like, it's made in China, and they're really angry that I promote it. So here I am doing it again. But the point of bringing this up is there's this community of people that seem to be drawn towards quality footwear, boots, raw denim, watches, leather wallets that I make. These people seem to be of like mind, and they're very kind from what I've seen. I think once you said you had a couple people that may have murdered you, Ticho. I forget what you're saying. There were 3 people that you had bad experiences with, but the vast majority of people that are interested in these types of things seem to be really special people that were going to take the time to appreciate the difference in something, and then they want to share that knowledge with other people. When I came into your Discord for the first time, not only was I welcomed by at least a dozen people immediately, but we instantly started having conversations with some guidance that I had questions about. So I wanted to credit you with creating that community, and certainly the people were inherently nice before you created this sandbox for them to gather in. But the people in the scene are great, and it's great that you've created this place for people to be.
Just gave them somewhere to come, like that's all it is. And like, Reddit existed by the time that thing started. I mean, Reddit was probably close to or over 100,000 followers, which doesn't mean all those people are active every single day, but like, they did take the time to hit the follow button, which is just crazy. And Reddit continues to be, I think, especially just at how powerful it is in search and all the endless content that's there in the static long-term format, like the informational source for the most people. And I think that's incredible. The other thing about Reddit is that it has the benefit of being static and something that will be there all the time. But, the communication flow is quite different than it is in a live chat scenario, basically. So I think that was the difference, right? That was the hook. And like the early Discord was like me and Ticho and Lars from Usmo and like our buddy Matt, but like also Josh, like our staff writer at Stitchdown now.
Shout out to Josh, by the way.
What's up? Shout out Josh.
Shout out to Josh.
Yeah, I had to push our callback so we could tape this. Yeah, it was just this idea that there could be like a more free-flowing conversation that could also lead to, if you engineered it correctly and set culture from the beginning, that just all the stuff that naturally happens on any internet platform, and Reddit's like pretty clean compared to, some darker corners of the internet in terms of how everybody deals with each other, that not everybody's going to be exactly face to face with each other like in real life, although that's something that we're definitely building towards more and more, and have done some of, and have some big plans on that front. But if you say something and somebody says something back to you and the first person doesn't like it, you're probably not walking away from your computer, like you're waiting for a response, and that can lead to just, I don't know, like a humanity, basically, which for the most part has held up. Like, people get fired up about this. Like the people that you talked about that are in this community generally have this interest generally, you have to be an interested person.
Right.
Or else like how would you ever have gotten there? And interested people are interested in a lot of things. And when you're interested in anything or a lot of things, you tend to form, pretty firm opinions because you feel like you're informed, and, that can go a little haywire sometimes. And I think in like a live chat Discord format that happens significantly less, just because of the nature of the communication. So, I think a lot of it can be chalked up to, that culture setting in the beginning. How do we just deal with each other? And when people get fired up, it's because they're excited about something, usually.
How have you noticed the...
Let's leave that one in.
Have you noticed, or how have you noticed the education level or information level of people changing since the sort of beginning days of the Reddit Goodyear Welt to, I feel like there was a time, and this is me, my own opinion, where people felt like they knew a lot and had a lot of information, but maybe it wasn't all sort of organized the right way, to how things are now? Or is there still work to be done there, or people are interested? Or, I mean, I'm just interested to hear what you think.
I'm going to let Teacher take this one, but my 2 cents is there is never not work to be done on informing people, right? Like, that's the goal. There's no end point.
Right.
But yeah, Teacher, take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, none of us knew anything. I mean, we all were just people who thought these things were cool. And then, as you are getting so intense into these things, it's like you suddenly are cataloging all the lasts that all these brands have. You're cataloging all the leathers that are available to do, all this stuff in. And you're learning and growing, and this knowledge base is kind of building up. And, on Reddit, it's like it's searchable, right? Like, so everybody, people are posting reviews, people are posting information, people are posting questions, and you can kind of just search through it and figure that stuff out. And so over time, people, I think the information level went up. There is a lot of like parroting stuff where people will just kind of hear something and it would be like, oh, well, if you dig into it, it like originates from a comment that some dude made like 8 years ago on Reddit where about, the insoles of like Red Wings or something, and it's like, well, some of that stuff was good information because, people started figuring out that you could just hit people up who worked at these companies and they would mostly just tell you stuff, I mean, it's kind of wild how open the industry is in terms of giving out information to people that are interested in it. And that's kind of how I fell into this too, is I realized like I could just call these people. Like I could just get on the phone. I like to talk to people on the phone. And I started just talking to people and they were giving me all this information and, just kind of telling me stuff where I'm like, why are you telling people this stuff? But then these dudes on, people on Reddit were like real interested in it. And, as it's gone on, I think just that volume of information has, kind of just compounded. And I think a lot of people have, there are dudes I know from back in the day on Reddit who have always been into this and, have been doing this for a long time. And now are guys like, we've got this guy Chinese Broccoli who, he sizes everybody on the Discord, right? Because he's been doing it for years. He's tried on a ton of different stuff. He knows what he just went down a rabbit hole of sizing, and I went down the same rabbit hole where you're like, well, I'm just going to buy everything. I'm going to try every weird brand. I'm going to try every last. I'm going to do all this stuff. And, he mentioned it before. I tell people, if you're going to buy some random Indonesian boots or something, send me a DM because I've probably tried them on and I can probably help you, even if you own 3 super obscure things, I can probably help you figure it out because I just got real into acquiring that information. I'm kind of I don't know. I like reading Wikipedia. Like I like just kind of information. So, yeah, I mean, the education level has gotten pretty high. And I feel like in the Discord now, that level of, it's people speaking at a pretty high level from all this information that's just been accumulated over the years by just a bunch of nerds, man. I mean, it's just, we're all just nerds.
That's something I've noticed about both the Stitchdown Premium Discord as well as Reddit Goodyear Welt is the quality of information. Nick and I know enough about leather to know when somebody's speaking an untruth, to put it lightly, or propagating information that's just nonsense. So what I'm impressed with by both Goodyear Welt on Reddit and the Stitchdown Discord is the knowledge is actually pretty precise. So like I said,
that way.
like I know enough about it to know when to call people out. And every time I shouldn't say every time, but I feel like recently when I read people's replies, I'm like, wow, that guy actually knows about leather. Like it's just some nameless guy. It's not Nick. It's not a guy at a tannery, but people are really, really well informed right now.
It's like, it really is crazy. And I think it's, the overall collective having to figure out what its mindset is. I mean, something like that. I'm not saying that everybody thinks exactly the same way in the Discord, but there are kind of some overriding principles that are never even stated, but like start to seep in a bit to your brain, including like, this is a shoe journey. Like I feel like we don't even say that enough these days. But we definitely used to on the podcast all the time. And it's true. It's like, well, how could you possibly know everything at the beginning or the middle or, oh, right, there is no end. So I think that just like this quest for understanding is important. And I this is never stated either. And I don't think it is on Reddit, or maybe it comes up when certain comments get thrown out there and, things start to go a little haywire. But just the idea that it's not some sort of competition, right? It's not a competition to have the coolest boots, or it's not a competition to know the most necessarily. It's how do we all get excited about this amongst ourselves? How do you get new people excited about it? How do you continue to support this industry that is like not a lock to last for like another 100 years? Like if you look at all the great American brands that used to exist that simply aren't that anymore, like there's no new mega American brands that are going to come up in the next like 5 to 10 years. I think there's small ones that can grow nicely. But, if you look at what was happening in like the 50s or the 60s or kind of even the 70s, like there were these monsters that made shoes for everybody and they were all fantastic. And some of them have, decided usually by sale and moving things outside of a family that that's not important anymore. And, profit is the most important. And like, I mean, Nathan Florsheim would tell you that Florsheims are no longer the greatest shoes in the world. At one point they were definitely on the list. So because of that, it's like, well, we all kind of got to come together and like be cool and interested and interesting and convince other people that that's something that you can have too, and just, kind of like be nice to each other. Definitely helps.
The thing that these communities can't provide for us is subjectivity. Like, what do you like? And when I talk to a lot of people, they'll ask me, what's the best leather, or what's the best XYZ?
No answer.
There's never, it's what do you think it looks good? And part about the community stuff that I'm fascinated by recently, if you peek over on YouTube, we've got our buddy Weston over on Roseanneville has created quite a stir with the indie boot conversation. And what I love most about that, we're going to try to get Weston on this show.
Good.
But what I love most about what he's doing there is starting a conversation. At least that's how I view it. It's like, for many years, like since I had started working at the tannery, so like 15, 16 years ago, you kind of couldn't criticize Alden. I mean, and I still love them. And honestly, indie boots are still top 3 favorite boots that I have. But I think it's interesting to start a conversation about some of the aspects of different footwear that could be improved upon, or, who is this really for? And that's sort of where I would nitpick Roseanneville a tiny bit in that video. Is he's presenting a specific case as if this boot, he's comparing it to a work boot, which is like, no, like, how many carpenters do you know that are wearing indie boots, right? So
Harrison Ford.
Yeah, like,
so one.
I mean, it's just like,
Ticho knows him personally.
At the end of the day, it's like the indie boot is classic and awesome, and I think it's very comfortable. And sometimes, to the point I was making earlier, is the information level is so high on that video, and it's all precise, it's accurate. But that doesn't necessarily mean your opinion should be swayed in a certain direction about it. It should just be taken as, this is the information, now you decide. And I don't know if he necessarily presented it in that way. He was his point of the series he was doing is like, what's the best thing? Which is my point. It's like, there is no best. It's like, what do you like? What are you using it for? What's your style? And like, a guy on YouTube can't tell you that.
Yeah.
So is this a good point for us to take a break here, Ben?
Yeah, we could take a break.
Mainly because I've been drinking a lot of coffee. If you know what I'm saying.
Before we do, shout out to Weston and like the whole Roseanneville crew. I think very few, like they may be the force that is getting the most people interested in this type of footwear, and the idea that you should be interested in exploring materials and leather and all that. And I think it's just, the reach is tremendous, and I think that that's hugely important. And he is wearing a pair of indie boots in the Thunderdome. For full grain listeners who don't know what that is, it's this boot wearing contest.
Well, maybe we should get into the Patina Thunderdome after our little break here.
Okay, we could do that. But yeah, he's wearing indie boots. So like, he read the room, he got it, and like, he's gonna find out to take the complete objective, here are the materials, here are how they compare to materials in other footwear. And then the main argument, which I did tell him too, I was like, dude, Neocork sole is tight. Like, don't.
Most people think it's the best sole.
Yeah, it's not.
Some people think that's the best.
I like
sole.
it. I think it's great.
In real use, it's definitely not grippy. It's like, it's pretty good. Can be a little hard, but whatever. And he's seeing the subjective side, that he heard a lot of feedback on. Well, God damn it, they're really comfortable, man. Like, who cares? So it'll be fun to have him figure it out. Although he did get a pair of shell boots, which I'm sure even Nick would say is not always the most comfortable leather. He could have gotten like suede or something and really teed himself up.
Nick's looking at me with his no comment face.
There's a little bit of a break in that
like I said, no way Nick agrees with me on that.
Although I just wore my Thunderdome boots I've worn them one day because I was a month late starting, and there's going to be quite a break-in process.
So maybe when we come back after our break here, Nick can tell us about his Thunderdome pair, and I'll grab mine too.
I got mine right here.
The irony is we talked about that a little bit, and I was like, you got to pick a pair that's super comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't take my own advice.
He picked the opposite.
Dude, so my daughter has, except for one night, and then last night, has puked every night since Halloween.
Oh my God.
Like, horrifically. Like, giving her baths at 2 a.m., changing the sheets. Like, I haven't slept, and I went to sleep at 7:30 last night. Finally got a little. And,
Is it she's just eating so much candy?
No. Like, it was all that one day, and she didn't really eat that much. My wife was like, "Oh, this candy! I can't believe you fed her so much candy." I'm like, I think she's actually just sick, which is proven to be the case. Like, she has some sort of stomach bug, obviously. But we've convinced her that she has candy sickness, and that, like, a lot of kids get it, you know, especially around Halloween. But, like, she needs to be careful, and she has, like, her grandmother was, like, offering her candy this weekend, and she was refusing it, and she's, like, kind of afraid of candy now.
Wow.
Which in some ways is sad, but
She just must be in so much
It's smart,
pain,
man.
you know?
yeah, I mean, it's we all have been. It's been tough. Just, like, chunks in her hair. Not
Gross.
sleeping. Not
That's
really
rough,
not
bro.
sleeping. Anyway, watch out for the candy sickness.
I'll try, man. I've eaten 2 Twix and a Reese's in the last 5 minutes, so.
I guess what it comes down to is we don't have any candy in this house because I didn't overbuy. I bought, because last year I got, like, I don't know, maybe $100 worth of, like, all the little ones. Like, we live up at the top of a hill that's now in the middle of a construction zone. Like, I don't know, maybe it was $65. It was a lot of fucking candy. And nobody came last year. So this year I got, like, 20 movie theater boxes of, like, you know, kind of gummy stuff, Swedish fish, whatever.
I should be fine for like 20 minutes. I had a Kill Cliff, 3 cups of coffee, and then like this thing full of liquid IV. Just like,
Jeez.
I'm full.
Yeah, I think we
full
drank
over
2
here.
pots of coffee here. I went trick-or-treating with she's not even 2 yet. She's like 1.5. And we took her to all these houses. First of all, it's like she doesn't understand like what's going on. So at first we'd be like, oh, you got to go and like grab the candy out and put it in your bag. So she would do it. And then she started going up to houses and like giving them one and then taking another one. So that was funny. And then also we would go to all these houses and I bring up my daughter like, oh, say trick or treat. And she like doesn't know how to say it. And she would take candy and every parent would be like, guess who really is going to eat that candy? It's for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
it
yes,
is.
yes,
Yeah,
but
obviously.
you're not supposed to know that.
That's the unspoken truth about Halloween.
Something that I appreciate most about leather is how it ages. And that's something that I learned from Nick's dad when I first started working at the tannery in 2006. So we're old, super old people. And one of the things he would explain to me is not all leather is brown. You know, you can make different colors. And not only that is some of it can change over time in terms of color and luster and just wear patterns. And he explained to me that's called patina. And it seems to me like these days, most people are very interested in developing their own patina. So when you think about something like in the denim world, like how does your denim fade in? Or I know a lot of people are really into like how copper pens fade and clothing, like how it wears in, looks cooler over time. So you've created this Patina Thunderdome, which is more of like a boot wearing competition. When I told my wife about that, she made fun of me. But give me the origin of the Patina Thunderdome.
Oh, man. That was another one that Tim at Titletown Goods. Everybody go buy some wallets from him when you're not buying them from Phil.
Tim's a great guy, by the way. Shout out to Tim.
He's absolutely wonderful. And like, he was like, hey, what if we did this? Like, people just wore boots. And I was like, God, dude, I love it. I've been thinking about it a little bit. I kind of need somebody to be like, do this. And then I say to them, okay, this is going to take a really long time, longer than you think. And yeah, it took like a year, 9 months to kind of develop the whole thing. But, you know, the idea kind of sprang from 2 places. One, what you said, like leather gets really interesting if you wear it well, and especially if it's certain types of leather, but like really anything that's high quality is going to develop its own character over time. So that's cool. Like I spent a lot of time looking back in the day when I was just getting into this at pictures of old boots. I was like, oh man, how do you get them like that? And at first I thought it was all about the care, and it's not. It's a million things. It's a million things. It's how they fit and what type of leather they are and what kind of conditions you're wearing them in, and definitely care is a part of it. The second pair of Aldens I got, just these brown Chrome XL True Balance plain toe boots, there was like a picture on Instagram and maybe two, like on the whole internet. And I was like, oh my God, I want my boots to look like that. And at that point I was like, these are the only boots that can look like that. And in some ways, that's kind of true. But that was like a huge goal. It was like, I just got to wear them and care for them until they look exactly like those. And boy, am I going to be happy. They were brown, but to this day,
all leather is brown.
We'll get to the Ticho theory of all leather.
Quick interruption for you. Did you guys have the same feeling when you saw a photo of the context Roy boots? Because I feel like that photo. Yeah, that photo.
Those are the exact boots I'm talking about.
Yeah, everybody loved that photo. I think it's on the wall at the tannery. But they're like, whoever that photographer is, I should hire them.
And these are like kind of close now.
Do you change the sole out? I still have.
Yeah, I put on a day and night sole, which people think I'm silly for doing, but I actually quite like.
I still have the gummy crepe sole.
Yeah. I almost killed myself on the crepe sole after wearing them for like 3 years straight and then slipping on some water.
Okay, so that's so funny. I was guessing like the photography of that boot was so good. Whoever did that like really knocked it out of the park. So sorry, that's how you fell in love.
I mean that like that idea that these boots can become something incredible, and you juxtapose that, especially with people who kind of take that journey slow at the beginning, versus okay, now I'm really into this, which means I've accumulated a whole bunch of boots, shoes, whatever. And none of them are like really getting enough wear. Like they look great. They look great in kind of their original form or a slightly variated version of that. But what if we actually committed to something? And like all props to Goodyear Welt too. Like they had the October challenge, I believe, right? Where you'd wear a pair of boots all through October and post them, which was very inspirational. And it's like, well, what if we did this, longer and got people even more invested in it by, corralling a whole bunch of great prizes, which it turns out, are important from a, hey, maybe I should do this and commit and take these pictures every month and submit them standpoint. But in the end, the beautiful thing about the whole contest is that it's turned into something way more than that in most people's minds, where like it is this journey and it's really fun to do it together with other people. And then kind of part 3 emerged from that. It's like, well, what if I want to figure out what to get next? What if we could provide essentially a database, which is now very, very real with this Patina Project app integration that we have, to figure out where a certain type and color and tannage of leather may go. Like it's always going to be slightly different probably than the picture that you saw, but you could get a pretty decent indication of what might happen with something deep into the future, because almost all footwear that's sold, especially on the internet, it's pictures of it new. And it's like, well, if the whole point is to go out and beat them up and have some fun and develop something that is uniquely yours or unique in some way, how do you get that glimpse into the future, basically? So yeah, it was those 3 things, definitely including none of us are wearing any of our boots with enough frequency to like have them evolve. It really struck home for a lot of people. And this year, we were going to be open, at the time of this taping, for another couple days with the November submissions, and that'll be it for entry. But yeah, I mean, it sure seems like there's going to be over 800 people in this thing around the world. I think in like 30 plus countries, with over 100 brands represented, just kind of having a blast, having like a really weird, strange blast together that it is quite like threatening or frightening, I suppose, when you describe it to your like, friends, coworkers, and loved ones.
She's like, what are you doing?
But that's cool. I mean, the whole thing's a little weird.
A boot wearing what? Competition.
Yeah. But God, it's so fun. It's so fun. And you connect with other people because you're like, God, that pair. And you can't wait to see it next month, and you're pestering them for pictures along the way. And yeah, there's just something like bizarrely inspirational about the whole thing. I don't know.
Well, since this is our show now, I actually forgot to ask this at the top. Probably the second thing I should have said was, what are you wearing on your feet today? Which is, I think you used to do all the time. But with the Thunderdome, it's probably your Thunderdome pair, right?
Yep.
All right,
Ticho,
what do you got, Ticho? What are you wearing?
All right, so I got my Thunderdome pair. I'll slip them off.
Oh, yeah.
You guys... There we go.
Look at that pixelated, compressed video.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
What is that?
It's Color 8 Chrome XL.
Nice.
Wanted to do something that was going to be comfortable, that I could actually wear extensively. Last year I did like some horsebutt engineers that were kind of a pain in the ass and didn't fit me super well and were not that enjoyable to wear. So it was like kind of a grind to do it. And so I wanted to make sure I got something that fit super well. It was going to be a leather that was going to break in really nicely. And I was like doing a bunch of sampling with this factory in China I work with, XBXS. And so I was like, great. They had all this Chrome XL. They had some like wax flesh. They had, stuff like that. So I was like, great. Just cook up a couple of these. I'll figure out which one I want to do for Thunderdome. Came down to these. And then I've got a brown wax flesh pair of the same boot. And decided I'd give the Color 8 a go, which so far seems fun. I think there's like a couple other dudes in Color 8 Chrome XL, like kind of similar boots, and we all kind of have like a camaraderie of we're the Color 8 Chrome XL guys here, So we'll see who wins out there.
Yeah, dude, my guy One Last Boot. Shout out to One Last Boot for various reasons. You're the best. He's got those Vibergs that look just. Oh my God! They fit right and they're all happening right, and it's a month in, and that's a cool thing too. A month in, like if you wear them enough, like a week in, you can pretty much tell where your boots are going to end up, especially in terms of like vamp break and all that. And both of those are just perfect, man. Color 8 Chrome XL, criminally underrated Horween leather, I must say.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, both of us won the so-called Chrome XL lottery, which. I guess is a term you maybe take issue
Trigger
with.
alert, Nick. Trigger warning.
No, we've talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a complicated equation.
Nick gets triggered by the Chrome XL lottery concept.
I mean, I feel like you really juice your odds if the boots fit you pretty well.
Yeah.
And, it's like you could lose that on any boot that doesn't fit you well and you end up getting a weird break on them. So I feel like Chrome XL has been unfairly maligned getting thrown in there with that lottery. So apologies for bringing that up.
No, I do get it. I mean, I get the idea of it, but it's a complicated. I mean, it's actually not that complicated. It's just maybe there are some things you can control and some things that you can't. So I don't know. So I guess that is a lottery.
That's true. That's true for anything.
Nick's not comfortable with sharing that knowledge.
I'm winning $2 billion tonight, so.
All right, Ben. What do you got on your feet right now? Literally right now, are you wearing shoes in your home?
Yeah, of course. People come over. They're like, "Should we take our shoes off?" I'm like, "Absolutely not." I want to look at them. So right now, I've been doing a bad job of fully committing to 2 pairs of Thunderdome boots. One of which has a remarkable Horween leather. Another one is a pair of Chelsea's that we're going to be releasing, made in collaboration with Ron Ryder and his Cortina factory and Miriam Toscanello horsebutt, which have the break on that vamp is absolutely beautiful. But no, I keep cheating on them with these Grandstone field boots in snuff reverse kudu that are just really fun. And like earlier, we were traveling and they're very comfortable for all that. And I was kind of like chopping wood over the weekend, and they felt like the right thing to do that in.
Whoa, nice move. What do you mean you're not doing full service to both boots? You're choosing one over the other?
No, I'm wearing these boots that are not either of my Thunderdome pairs.
Oh,
Like too frequently.
excuse me. I thought you meant those were your 2 pairs.
No. I got, let's see. So we got these.
Nice. What is that?
A little tough. So this is a Viberg Scout boot. This is a production sample that hopefully that we make a whole bunch of one day. 110 last, unstructured toe.
Ooh.
In what Nick has agreed could be reasonably called Horween Crust Natural M's work shoe butt, which Nick can speak to even more fully, but I believe is a pit tan CXL tannage of the shell in horse butt, which is absolutely phenomenal. One of the coolest leathers I've ever experienced. I also have it on a pair of Viberg 145 Oxfords, which will hopefully also be a shoe that more people than me own at some point, if Nick can make the leather. Thanks, Nick.
We had Brett on the episode, and he was sort of hinting that he might want to do that 110 last again. So I'm actually surprised to see it, because the pairs that we have, Nick and I have, are also 110 last for most of it. And Brett said he didn't love the shape of the last. Anyways, you want to go talk about that leather?
So it's natural Chrome XL work shoe butt crust, which means it's been tanned, but we sort of stop short of the finishing stage of it. So the surface is more raw, less, there's no dye or anything on it. And that gets pit tanned, just like it's basically gets tanned just like a piece of shell cordovan for the first
month,
like 60 days,
2 months.
Yeah. And then we sort of switch it up and then start tanning it like a piece of Chrome XL. So it's it's kind of like a hybrid. And then, yeah, I mean, it's the shells are still in there, and it's a super tough piece of leather, but not so easy to make. And then to make it, we have to give up a pair of shells, which we're not always that excited to do.
But
you're wearing
worth it.
It's worth
so
it.
good.
So you were a pair of Vibergs too, right? Or do you have them here?
I'm doing great, Phil. Thanks for asking.
Oh yeah, we forgot. We do our takeover show. Nick was really excited about that one.
Yeah, those are.
I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yeah.
They're beefy.
Nick just got these in last week.
Yeah, I've only worn them for one day, but they're Vibergs also, and they're a new leather called Cypress, which is like a waxed Latigo basically. So super tough, full grain, and they are Goodyear welted. They're not stitched down, so they look a little bit different than your
270
than your average Viberg maybe, but and they have a steel toe in them, which I convinced Brett to do for me so I could wear them at work a little bit more. But
they look,
I think you should do that
really old school.
They're
one day.
Also, there's no shoe tree in here.
They don't need a shoe
they're
tree.
So dense.
But thanks,
Oh my
Brett.
God.
Yeah, they're serious.
And those are 110s?
Yeah. It's going to take me a couple of days to break those in.
I mean,
I love
give me a break on these things. Like, I can't imagine breaking that in.
Yeah.
Teacher was like, "Oh yeah, this time I decided to wear a super comfortable pair," and Nick picks like the most dense steel toes.
Those the engineers that I have in Cordovan are significantly more comfortable than those. Out of the box at least. So we'll see how this goes.
The most
You gotta
rigid.
do it, man. You gotta.
No, I'm going to. I'm committed. I'm committed.
All right, I got this guy. This is sort of the opposite of what. Well, look how thick that midsole is. This is a Oak Street. I think he calls this a field boot also, which is distinct from the Grantstone field boot, which I also have and I enjoy, Ben. I think those are great.
They're really fun.
Mine's in like a brown bison. They call it walnut bison.
Yep.
So I got this pair in the Merriam. I think Oak Street calls it horse rump. So it's natural horse butt from Merriam. And this is also a trigger to Nick and his dad. I wear these purposefully when I visit the tannery now.
You do wear them or you don't?
I sometimes wear these to trigger your dad because it's funny. He goes, "Oh, I see what you're wearing there." it bums out Skip that I wear these, but I wanted to experience something new. You know, nobody's actually ever said that I'm a Halloween shill, although I am because I love it. But this is an opportunity for me to branch out and try some new stuff. It's pretty nice. I like it a lot. The thing I like about this boot, that's a contrast to Nick's, is how minimalist it is in terms of like the lining and stuff. There's nothing sort of inside, and being that it's a veg, horse butt, it's actually molding pretty nicely. The other interesting thing about this Merriam is just how tight the break is, and I'm unsure if it's because there's a shell inside of this one or not, or if just that leather is super tight. So there's sort of like no delamination or creasing happening in the toe. However, on the right, Nick's looking at the other boot.
Like, yeah, show him the other one.
The other one, it's almost like there's something underneath the leather in the toe cap that's like causing it might be more firm underneath or something, but it's definitely delaminating like on the toe, which is odd. Like I've never seen that on any other pairs I have. Usually it develops more here, like on the top of my foot first. But anyways, I'm enjoying these. These are one of my 2 Thunderdome pairs. The other is the Grant Stone brass boot in Essex, which is Nick's leather. So when I want to gain favor, I wear those to the tannery.
Clever.
They're not the only game in town.
You know, my
We
motivation.
realize that.
Yeah, my motivation for this year, though, is sort of like what you're talking about. I wore leather soles last year for the first Thunderdome, and in the winter here in Chicago, I just like couldn't wear them for a lot of time. So I got some different, like the brass boots have that lug sole, and these have like a Goodyear something dead stock. I forget what it's called. Oil-proof Goodyear. Who knows what this is?
Oh yeah, and then the cat's paw heels too on those.
It doesn't say cat's paw, but it might be Chemigum sole.
Yeah, I think they're like the other dead stock ones then.
Yeah, so these are nice.
Yeah,
I'm
George
actually
got his hands on a whole bunch of cool like heels and half soles and stuff.
I'm pretty happy with comfort level on both these and the brass boots. So I'm looking forward to the winter this year. Last year was a disaster.
But you pushed those things, man. They came out looking beautiful.
Well, I mean, I have you to thank for the Thunderdome stuff because I probably wouldn't. Well, I have you to thank and you to hate because I don't know if I would have picked up these if I didn't have to. Because I have so many other boots that I love wearing. Like I have those 110 natural shell plain toe Vibergs that I like don't wear because I have to wear these.
Those are I saw those at the shop when we took the trip to Chicago.
It definitely turns into a problem, like the wall behind you, where it's like, man, there's so much stuff I want to wear. So like for me, that's like the only negative of the Thunderdome, and the positives definitely outweigh it. It's much more fun to wear these as like in a communal setting, which is great. But I wanted to get into more of a celebration of you guys and what you've done with the Shoecast.
No.
All right. Well, this is the end of the show then.
We're having fun. Try us.
I've really enjoyed your show. Like I said at the top, it's made me feel connected to the scene again, and I find it to be endlessly entertaining. I wanted to go back. Maybe you could help me pick. I've got 3 moments of your show that I can think of, and I wanted to try to form a sort of top 5 list of our favorite Shoecast moments. Let me lead off with something we already hinted at, which is the boot bait that Ticho had with Ben moderating. I was listening back to that and really enjoying. There's like a joke every 10 seconds that was very funny, but it was also good to hear the debate. You were talking about Chrome Excel. I think you might have even talked about the Chrome Excel lottery in there, and your fellow boot baiter was anti Chrome Excel and you were pro Chrome Excel. I think it was a good conversation in the same way that I love Roseanville bringing up a conversation. You guys were doing it too back then. So maybe Ticho, do you have any favorite show moments?
I don't remember any of them.
Just black out, and
I also
He doesn't listen.
I don't listen to it. I can't. I put it in the headphones. I hear you don't want to hear your own voice.
Yeah,
like
true.
while you're driving around, that's weird.
You get used to it
awful.
when you're editing them.
Nick hates
but-
it too.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's rough, man. It's rough, but yeah,
How about
I don't
this?
know. I had
Favorite
there's
moments doing an interview with somebody.
Well, I have a favorite. Probably the most excited I've ever been recording a podcast was when I gave the Ticho system for buying used boots and like how to negotiate with people, because I love negotiating. I am a lawyer, and I have like all these steps. Couldn't tell you what episode it's from. Ben probably knows. But I have like a whole system for, what you do. And now people curse me for this all the time, who are like selling boots online, and they'll send me screenshots and they'll just be like, F you, Ticho, like this guy's trying to Ticho me, whatever. And, yeah, it's like, you do stuff like you ask them to like measure the insole or something, which is like, completely useless, but then they have to go and like pull the boot out of the box and like do it. And then they were kind of invested in it a little bit because they just wasted like a bunch of their time. And then you're like, yeah, maybe I don't need the boots right now. And you just wait them out. It's awful, man. It's ruthless and
I can't believe
brutal.
you put that out there.
And I basically said I'm retiring from selling used shoes at this point because people are just going to use my own system right back at me. Mm-hmm. And now my basement's just full of all these shoes because I can't really move them online without being harassed with my own system. It's brutal.
Okay, I'll take it.
The lead with the useless shoe question is the flag that you're about to get T-showed.
Yeah, if you're selling a pair of shoes and somebody asks you to measure the insole or measure the length of the sole or like some dumb thing like that, you're probably getting T-showed.
People haven't even gotten creative. They're still using the exact examples that you use.
Yeah.
Circumference of the opening.
Yeah, my ankle opening. I have a wide ankle. It's very important to know. All right, Ben, what do you got? You got any favorite episodes that you've done? Other than all of them?
I mean, it really is all of them because I feel like until this one where we're being interviewed and contending with that poorly, there hasn't been a bad one. The boot bait was a classic. Jake, Mr. Style, almost vintage style. Shout out Jake, he was thrown into something that he dealt with so nobly. Like, we had been talking about it for weeks and weeks between myself and Ticho, and Jake was like, yeah, I'll do it. And like, obviously we did a little bit of prep, but he was just so game. One of my favorites, but probably, I would say certainly, the numbers don't lie, the audience's least favorite was when we decided in the middle of the Olympics to pretend to be shoes, or I guess I was a boot, and like call the Olympics as if we were Bob Costas and whoever else. But the Olympics was also just shoes from different countries, and it was like the opening ceremonies. We like a good concept episode, clearly. So yeah, go back and listen to that one if you dare.
It's like a low performer for your analytics.
Nobody got it.
People hated it.
It didn't quite hit. But, we have the kind of wonderful, loving, understanding audience that will, at least tolerate that happening and then like just not run for the hills.
I once met one of Ben's like maybe college friends or work friends or something like that. And he was like, yeah, it's really, Ben needs a good partner, man. He really needs somebody to like tell him when he's just completely crazy and going over the edge with something that's, too high concept or too weird or whatever. And I was like, yeah, unfortunately, that's not me, man. Like, I pump the gas on that stuff. And the result of that is
the Shoe
episodes
Olympics
like that occasionally.
Shoe Olympic? Did you try to tie those two words together also? Like a boot bait, Shoe Olympics?
Yeah, well, it was the Shoe Olympics. The Shoe Olympic Games.
It seems to be your writing style.
The amount of prep that we did for that, and like, that was not the original concept for the episode, but obviously it's where we landed. I mean, we could have put out like a dozen and a half episodes in the amount of time that we were discussing that one. But, we got to get our kicks too, hopefully. I mean, yeah, like everything. Because again, we started out just kind of talking to each other more, and then started to bring on guests. And like, I mean, it's a murderer's row of people who've been crazy enough to say, yes, I'd love to come on this. So it is tough to pick, but the Ron Ryder episodes are classic. There's two of them. Like Ron is just like one of the major. I don't know, to call him a personality is like selling him short, but he's just so fun to talk to and has all these stories and has lived his entire life in shoes. And really is just so damn passionate about it. Like, I think we touched on it in one of the episodes, or he didn't want to do it, but you can find an article on stitchdown.com about the time that he got fired from Nordstrom for punching his manager because the manager didn't care enough about customer service. Like, that's Ron. That sums him up. But then the episodes are so informational.
You don't care about people enough, and you
and he just clocked him. Like in the stock room. I remember back in the day when I started, you just told me that story. I was like, so you're cool if I print this? He's like, I don't care. I don't work there anymore. So I love Ron. It's been really fun to make these boots with him, but there's just so damn informational. Like the sizing one, like how you're sizing your shoes wrong potentially is a must listen for anybody. Like it will completely change how you think about this, and people who thought they had it figured out a decade and a half ago, listen to that. They're like, dude, my mind's broken. My spirit is broken. I think every shoe that I have might be the wrong size. Like, what do I do? It's like, listen to it again and sell some shoes and figure it out this time. Get yourself on the right track. And then, it's like, it's far too rare. Like, let's be honest. This is a field in an industry dominated by dudes. We're here again, a bunch of dudes talking to each other. So whenever we can get women on the show, it's just always so fun, and they're always fantastic. Adele Williamson from Trickers, master bespoke shoemaker at just an insane age, made shoes at the time for Prince Charles, like the guy who's now going to be the king. I'm trying to figure out if he's going to wear Adele's shoes to the coronation in May. And she's incredible. She's an incredible talent, and the way that she thinks about it and the love that she has for it. She's got the accent, British, the whole thing. And then the one with Tess from All Together Leather is like probably, you could say that the Ron episodes are maybe tied with it, but just such a damn romp. And she worked all over the place, Dayton Boots, Love Jewels. And we talked a lot about like what she does and how she does it and opening up her own repair shop. But she's just like such a gas and so fun to chat with. I recommend both of those to everybody who, is kind of getting into it and doesn't have the fortitude to go all the way back to the beginning. But yeah, I mean, it's endless, right? Thank you everybody who's ever come on the show, and certainly everybody who's listened, and the advertisers for supporting it and really making it possible.
It's a lot of work. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we end it with this down note. Now that we've started our own show here at the Full Grain Stuff, I'm realizing
you get it.
I get like so I think people think, oh, you got a podcast. Like, okay, you just like turn on the microphone and then you have a conversation and you're done. There's like a significant amount of work that goes on. Somebody was asking in the Stitchdown Discord in the podcast section about how long it takes to make an episode. And I've been working on a few now. So we've released 7. And it seems like my flow right now isn't an hour of output is about 10 hours of work. Not to which like the little things that you don't expect. Like it's actually hard for Nick and I to even just get on the same schedule and get together, let alone like rope in 2 other individuals like yourselves. It's pretty tough just figuring out schedules and what are you going to talk about. And then you got the conversation, which is work. It's sometimes hard to have a conversation.
Only when I'm involved.
Yeah. And then you got to edit it and publish it and write the show notes. And it's a bit of work. So I think I just wanted to thank you on behalf of listeners for what you guys do. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And are you in between episodes, in between seasons right now? Are you calling them?
Yeah, when we're taping. I mean, this will be. I mean, you guys took over our podcast, which we were
you're welcome.
Unaware was going to happen. We just hopped on with each other, and here you were. And Phil starts talking, and it's like, well, he's pretty good at this, so let's let him roll. But yeah, this will be this episode. By the time people listen to this episode, at least on the Stitchdown side, which we should coordinate, Phil, the season will have begun. And yeah, we'll run through the end of this year, and then we'll take another break. We usually do 9 episodes, and then I'm just gassed. Because, it's a ton of work. Luckily, it's like incredibly fun. At the beginning, I'm always just so jazzed up, and at the end, I'm the same. Because I'm like, it's almost over. I can see it. But
yeah, I always tell people Ben does all the work. I do basically nothing. I don't even. Sometimes he has he puts together notes. He's got like a script, and like it'll just kind of say like Ticho talks because I don't prepare. I just kind of show up. I say weird stuff about hot dogs, and then I leave. And then he spends all this time editing it. He makes me sound pretty smart. I think he makes me sound interesting, and I wish I could figure out a way to have him just edit my life so that I sound that way like all the time. But Ben, you do a fantastic job, man. I appreciate you. And it's been however many episodes, seasons we've done, it's been a joy, man. So also Chicago style hot dogs, terrible. I just gotta say it one more time.
I agree.
I was gonna say but then I'm gonna take it back.
I occupy the Ticho space, so thanks, Phil, for doing all the work.
Yeah, Nick is my Ticho.
We went to Portillo's at the Chicago, Shoenanza Palooza 22 back in April. Went and saw both of you guys at your respective, work homes. But we went to Portillo's in the middle, and I ordered a hot dog with ketchup on it. I don't even think they put the ketchup on it. Like, they have ketchup. Maybe I had to request it. But I made it very clear to the person that I was ordering from that I wanted nothing on it and that I was going to put ketchup on it. And they sold it to me. But, man, it was tense. They were really confused. It was actually more confused. Like, what do you mean?
That's not a hot dog here. It's just something else.
But guess what? It was pretty good.
It's pretty good. Well, again, I appreciate you guys. We got to wrap it up here, but I'm hoping that we can do something together again soon. Maybe you want to end the show by telling us what we can look forward to in your next season, or do you not want to give away any secrets?
Or we also do favorites if you have any.
Oh, we can do favorites. Yeah.
This is your show this time. Let's
okay, we're back to our show.
Okay.
Welcome to the Full Grain Podcast. I'm Phil Callis with Nick Horween, and this is my radio voice. Sometimes in the show, we like to end it with some non-work, non-leather. I mean, it could be that sort of stuff too. But we like to talk about our favorite things. And typically it's been stuff that we're watching on TV, streaming, maybe it's a movie.
Gadgets,
books. What are you guys into right now? Maybe we start with you, Ticho.
Well, that's tough, man. I feel like I'm unprepared for this.
That's
Perfect.
What? I don't really watch. I don't really have. I have 2 kids, so I don't have a lot of time to watch TV. But when I do, it's like mostly cartoons and stuff like that. My kids recently have been watching Phineas and Ferb, which is a fantastic show. I'm laughing at some of the jokes, which is like, that's when you know it's pretty good. And like they seem into it, and I think they'll probably get up to, seem like they're kids that are going to get up to a bunch of hijinks and stuff like that. So that it seems like it's right up their alley. So that's pretty good. So that's right now that's my favorite thing, I guess. That and seltzer. I drink a lot of seltzer. I drank 3 seltzers while we were recording this.
We forgot to mention Wegmans. Did you get those seltzer from Wegmans? Yeah, there you go.
I sure did. Mandarin Orange from beautiful Wegmans.
I think we ticked off all the boxes for the Shoecast now.
We're pretty predictable.
Yeah, I love Wegmans. I might go to Wegmans this afternoon.
All right, so Wegmans is the favorite. Got it.
Yeah, love Wegmans. So,
what are you into, Ben?
Wow, yeah, this is a stumper. This should be easy, right?
It could literally be anything. It's actually kind of funny how people seem to struggle with this. And like Nick's dad came in and we're like, what are you into? And he's like, oh, I couldn't possibly mention a thing. And then he mentioned like 30 things. It's funny, like when people start to relax and think about it for a second, you're like, oh, I do like a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I know it's coming and I'm always like, I don't know.
Well, we've got some categories here. TV, there's never enough time to watch any of it. I never watch TV on my own. I watch Succession when I'm working out and I'm in like the middle of the second season, which tells you how much I work out. Never Have I Ever. Fantastic show. I think Mindy Kaling's like a producer or something. I love a good high school show. And it's a great one. And at its best, it's like, it's absolutely hilarious.
Have you seen Pen 15?
I did see Pen 15.
All right, great. So you watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Kind of like raunchy high school. The original, what was the show with the dicks? This was like a while ago. But like, there were like dicks drawn on the cars, on all the teachers' cars. Oh, what was it called?
I don't know.
And it was like kind of like a serial style mockumentary.
Oh yeah, I did see that on Netflix.
I mean, it was absolutely outlandish, and it ended up being just one of the smartest like commentaries on like media and social media and everything. And also there were like lots of dicks on cars. So whatever that one was called, that's good. And then I'm gearing up to watch. I was incredibly into Dark, the German, not to give away too much, but kind of mystical show.
Very complicated.
God, it's so good. And so those producers and Jonas from Dark, and I think a couple other of the actors have a new show coming out called 1899, I believe. 1889? I don't know. I watched a trailer on YouTube the other day. I have a calendar reminder for when it comes out, I think next week.
Ooh, get hyped.
Where they're like on a ship coming to, America, and then like a whole bunch of crazy shit happens.
All right. That's pretty good, man. So I got some stuff to watch based off of that.
Yeah, get in there. What else? What else do I care about?
Do you like books? I imagine as such a skilled writer that you probably read a bit.
My old line is I read the internet because that's largely where I've existed throughout my career, which is true.
Yeah,
it's definitely true. I do not read enough books. The one book that I'm like continually in the middle of is called Norwegian Wood, and it's this beautifully written book about how Scandinavians, Norwegians specifically, like create the wood that they use to heat their homes, because the majority of the country is on like wood burning stoves, and it was this big movement by the government, and it gets into all that stuff. But it's how to like chop, split, and store and season wood.
Whoa.
And it's a technical guide, but it's brilliantly written, and it tells you so much about the culture over there, and it really inspires you to go. I mean, I guess that's my hobby, is like those things, which is a little weird, but it's good for the boots. But Plug comes out, what day is today? Might come out tomorrow, which is not going to be accurate by the time the podcast comes out. It's already out.
November 7th.
Two of my best friends wrote a book together with their editor, who is more than just an editor on this project, called The Lemon, and it's incredible. It's like, I'm not just saying this because like other people have already said that it's quite good. And it's a kind of send up of like the food world and internet publishing and social media and celebrity and a whole lot of things. And it's like kind of, but not really, about like an Anthony Bourdain type character. It's phenomenal. It'll be the funniest thing that you've read in your entire life, I promise.
Nice. That comes out November 8th, you think?
It'll be out by the time this episode is live.
Okay, great.
The Lemon by S.E. Boyd, which is a pseudonym that kind of encapsulates all three of them. Get it. It's good. It's a quick read, too.
The Lemon.
I'm in. All right, Nick, we're going to shift to you. Nick hates favorites because we do many of these episodes, and he feels like you might be running out of favorites. You got one?
Lots of favorites. I'm just such a nerd.
Just like too embarrassing to say.
I'm watching that the new Star Wars series Andor, which I think is really good. I've watched of the Star Wars series that I've watched, which is all of them. I think this is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to check it out.
It's good.
Have you seen the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
What kind of question is that?
Obviously.
Okay. Have you seen Prey?
Yes.
It's freaking awesome.
Is it
you
good?
guys? It's worth paying for Hulu for a month just to watch that movie.
I mean, as long
I
as
got
you
my
know.
buddy Josh's Hulu.
Did you steal it?
DM me for the password.
Yeah.
It's Predator, but in, I don't know what the culturally appropriate word is, but I think it's American Indian time, like 1700s, 1800s, like Western expansion. And it's from a young woman's perspective. She's being chased down by a predator.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil anything. It's freaking awesome. It's really well made.
I mean, it's every other Predator movie where
It's Predator 1.
he shows up and it's super violent and you can't see him, but you can kind of see him. His blood's green.
It's awesome.
It's really entertaining. I mean,
It's
they
good.
have a formula, so it's not like it's you're spoiling much, but
I think
it's good.
it's the best since the original one, I would say. You don't agree?
No, I don't know.
Rank them right now, Nick.
Well, the original was number 1.
And then
That's all
Prey.
I got. That's all I got.
Watch Prey. Well, thanks, guys. We're going to go to Wegmans and get some seltzer.
It's only about a 14-hour drive for us.
But it's been a blast.
worth it.
Thank you,
worth
Ben, and thank you, Ticho, for being here. The crowd loves you.
Look, Nick, Phil, thank you for having us on, at least in one instance, our own show, which was a unique experience and, yeah, something that we both feel very moved by. But yeah, man, just big ups to you guys for doing this, like for doing Full Grain, for getting after it hard, putting episodes out, getting all sorts of interesting people on there, stealing our listenership.
Thanks, by the way, for that.
I
You
think
and
it's
Josh
very,
really hooked us up.
yeah,
nice of you.
we're fully supportive of people listening, to a more interesting, reasonable, informed podcast than ours. Because
No. It's in seriousness. I don't think that's true. I think you guys are very informed and very entertaining. It's just different. It's just another thing. It's like having Netflix and Hulu to watch Prey, right?
Well, I appreciate it because there's a podcast I can listen to that, except for this one, that doesn't have my voice in it, where people are talking about the things that I think are interesting and care about. So
Exactly.
I was very excited to see that you guys were making this podcast. I've listened to most of the episodes already, and I'm really enjoying it. So
What do you think about the
Keep
hot
it up.
dog episode?
That was early
don't know
on.
anything
That was-
about hot dogs, man.
That was not my favorite.
Like,
That was our throwaway. So we kept our throwaway podcast in the broadcast, unlike you guys.
you gotta put it out. Just put it out.
yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you all later. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
We'll do it again sometime.
Full Grain.
Shoecast.
Oh, you gotta do the. We'll see you next time, and take care of your. What do you say?
And
Something
take
like
care.
that?
Yeah. What's the line? Take care of
Thanks
each
for
other
listening.
and take care of your boots.
Yeah, take care of all your leather goods.
Is that?
Anything
Give me the.
grained. No.
what's the-
Normally it's shoes.
So what do I
That's it for
say?
this week. Take
We'll let
care of your
Nick do
shoes.
this.
We'll see you next time.
Take care of them shoes. We'll see you next time.
That's pretty good.
That's a good impression.
Do you want? You can isolate that if you like.